Hello, everyone. How are you? Welcome back to yet another Hangout for our Career 911, Your Future Job in Medicine and Healthcare course. This is our fourth Google Hangout and the second one in a row where I'm really sick. And so that's why I'm trying to keep my distance away from our speakers these last few Hangouts. So please bear with us if it looks like we're unnaturally separated. Also, please bear with me if you can't understand my voice, my English right now. Today, I'm really excited to be able to introduce our Assistant Director of Financial Aid here at the Feinberg School of Medicine at Northwestern University. This is Cynthia Gonzalez. You may recognize her. She gave the lecture in Module 6 about financing your education. So I'm really excited to have you join us today. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So Cynthia, can you take a few minutes to talk about your experience in this field?
Sure. So I started, many moons ago, about 15 years ago, I started working at the University of Chicago. I worked with undergrads, and then I moved on and started working with the law school students. From there, I left and I came here to Northwestern, Feinberg School of Medicine. I've been here for about 7 years now. I meet with the students, I hold their hands. I also have implemented a program for financial literacy, and so I also teach personal finance to our students as well. So
very important.
It's been fun.
Everyone should be required to take financial literacy, regardless of what their career is or where they are in life.
I agree. Yes.
Even little kids should understand about managing money. So we're going to jump right into the questions that we have so far. And if you're watching live, please feel free to post more questions, okay? Our first question is, I have a doubt nowadays. I'm studying aerospace engineering in Spain. How can I change or translate my studies to a U.S. university, United States university, so that I start a medicine course, more specifically oral and maxillofacial surgery? Should I take a pre-med course? So in order to enter the field of oral and maxillofacial surgery, absolutely, you would have to go into medicine in terms of medical school and training to be a physician. So in order to enter medical school from a current engineering background, you would have to make sure you have all of the pre-medical requirements. So depending on what medical school you are going to go to, whether it's based in Spain or based in the United States, I know you want to come into the United States, you'd have to look online to see what are the pre-medical admissions requirements and in terms of coursework, and also have to take the MCAT, the Medical College Admissions Test for the United States. Next question.
So the next question. I attended a private university for undergrad and thankfully received university grants. That was good. I'm worried to apply to private universities for graduate programs that may not make a lot of money. For example, master's in social work compared to master's in nursing, because I may not be able to find a job that will repay my loans. I feel I may not be worth a private university education again, but I agree with their missions and like their programs. How can I discuss my decision to apply to a MSW or MPH program that may not yield large incomes to my parents? So my personal opinion would be to apply everywhere, private and state institutions, because I think that by doing that, you're at least seeing what's out there. I think really and truly it's entirely possible that you may find your financial aid package from the private institution may be similar to what you would get from a state institution. So therefore, I think it's really important that you apply where you're interested in and then see what comes back, and then you can kind of make a decision at that point. Also, I will add that with federal student loans, there are repayment options that allow for forgiveness at the end. If you've reached a certain point, if you still have a balance left over, the government says that it's basically you've done your duty, you've paid sufficient, and at that point they're going to forgive the rest of the loan. I do want to preface in saying that I don't think that you should go out and take as much money as you can, because we don't know if these programs can change in the future, but I think it's a good safety net to at least have that as something to hold on to. So I think that you should go out and apply to all of the schools that you're really interested in and see what can happen.
And so there's a couple other aspects to that question, and I appreciate this question. It's pretty complex. Part of it is, do you really need to go to a private university or a less expensive, like a public university, for getting your master's in social work or a master's in nursing? I think you could do well in going from either type of university. So I wouldn't worry about that in terms of being able to marketability and being able to find a position or a job after graduation. You want to, again, like we talked about in the Hangout with Joel Shapiro last week, and you want to make sure that the track record of the students that graduate from a particular school that you're looking to attend, or a particular program you're looking to attend within a school, has a good, solid track record of graduating students into jobs, so that you're employable. That's an important financial consideration. Also, the other question is, depending on the type of position you're looking for, you may not need a master's yet. You may have the skills and experience to get an entry-level job, and then eventually go back and work on your master's on the side, which could also help your financial situation as well. So those are important aspects of what you're applying for in terms of jobs. So it's an important aspect of your question to think of more broadly about what you really want to do, what kind of position you want to be in, and there are different ways to feed in the extra education along the way. The next question.
Applying to graduate programs is a big deal. Yes, it is. I have a growing list of programs I plan to apply to this fall, but I need a little courage to get the ball rolling. I guess I'm afraid of being rejected and have to apply for programs and ask for recommendations again. What or who gave you the nudge you needed to pursue the program or your passion? Is it sensible to apply to all programs I am interested in? Thank you. I think going back to what I said earlier, I think it is great to go out and apply to various programs, but I think the most important thing is to figure out exactly what you want to do. So if you're interested in a specific program, then you might want to target that one instead of, you don't want to apply to multiple programs just because you're applying. It should be something that you're really interested in, because obviously there's expenses involved in applying for different programs. So I think it's definitely something that you want to limit, but I would say with a grain of salt. Obviously, if there's multiple programs that you're interested in, certainly do that, but I think it's also important to just go for what you're really interested in rather than going wild, I guess we can say.
Yeah, and the track record of that particular program, again, to reiterate,
right.
Why I want to know why you're applying to a graduate program. What is really your intent? What do you want to be 5 years from now and 10 years from now? What's your pie in the sky goal? And does that align with whatever graduate program you're applying to? Or do you just need to rack up a few more years of experience in the field without getting more degrees? So you need to be mindful about that. And the skill that we talked about a few weeks ago in terms of informational interviews, like really trying to ask people in positions that you're interested in being in, how they got there and what kind of skills are needed, and if any school is needed. Absolutely try that out, because that may help guide you as well. And if it really is that you need to go into a graduate program, there's never a good time. I mean, there's some more optimal times in terms of financial stability and other family needs that you may have to attend to. But just try it. Don't be afraid. I see that you mentioned you're afraid of being rejected. We are all rejected at one point in our life, and many of us are rejected multiple times along the way. And I will tell you from personal experience, every day there's some rejection in terms of maybe a manuscript not being accepted or a grant not being funded, or all of those things. We have to face that along the way, no matter how successful we are in our career or what point we're at.
I agree with that.
The next question.
Oh, okay. This one's for me. What do you think the biggest mistake students make when it comes to student loans?
Well, that's a big question.
That is a big question. And I think I actually have two things that I think are big mistakes. The first would be overborrowing. So for example, when you get your financial aid award notice, a school will say you're eligible for XYZ. So for example, if a program is, if the total cost of attendance is, let's say, $50,000, and the school says you can have $50,000 to cover the cost of attendance, but in reality, your actual costs are, let's say, 35 or 40. So if you come in the door and think that because the school suggested that you take 40, you have $10,000 extra that you don't actually need, and because at that point it may be in your hands, you may do things that you shouldn't be doing because you don't actually need that money. So overborrowing, I think, is an issue. So my recommendation would be that you come up with a budget, you figure out exactly what you need, and then at that point you can accept what you need rather than what somebody's actually recommending that you may potentially need. The other thing that I think could be an issue is what I call the ostrich syndrome, where you're accepting student loans and not actually keeping up with them. Meaning every year a student can come in and say, yes, I want this loan, yes, I want this loan, yes, I want this loan. And then it comes time for graduation and the student will say, how did this happen? That's probably, like I said, there is no way I could eliminate the ostrich syndrome because I think it's a really big issue. So whenever you're borrowing student loans, I would recommend that at least annually you look at what you're borrowing so that you know you're keeping track of what's going on. And it's not going to be a shock when it comes time for graduation to see, oh gosh, well now I've borrowed $100,000 and how am I supposed to repay this? It just keeps it in line, it keeps it realistic, it keeps it real. So I think that's probably the two big things that I would say are issues, and hopefully my recommendations can help avoid those issues.
Thank you. Are there online resources to help you figure out what are the nuts and bolts of constructing a budget?
I like mint.com.
What's it called? I'm sorry.
Mint.com.
M-I-N-T.
M-I-N-T, like take a mint. It's a great resource. It's an online tool. You do have to give access to your bank information, but it actually will send you information daily saying, this is your net worth and this is how much you've spent on coffee, or this is how much you've spent in restaurants, whatever the category is, it will show you that information. And so it's a great thing to do, again, before somebody would accept their financial aid. So that way they see exactly what their expenses are and they can see where they can cut back as well.
Are there other resources that will that you can feed in loans and other considerations, or does mint.com allow you to do that?
Well, in the case of Mint, you're actually taking the loans as income. That's where you would list that information.
Okay.
So it doesn't say, oh, your student loans are XYZ. You would just list it as income.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's good advice. Can you speak more about tuition remission is the next question.
Tuition remission. So I think there's many employers that offer tuition remission. I know personally, I used to work for a bank. So when I was in undergrad, I took advantage of the program. I was required to stay on for an extra 2 years because basically what happens is they offer you XYZ dollars. So maybe it's $3,000, or maybe it's $5,000, or sometimes $10,000. And then in return, you basically are maintaining your employment. So sometimes they ask you to stay, sometimes they don't. It just depends. Colleges and universities offer that pretty widely. So if you're an employee of a college or a university, that might be one of the ways that you can basically help fund your education. So yes, obviously there's the student loans out there, but you can use that income to help cover your costs of the education.
There also are scholarship programs that are other programs that help pay for your schooling, your higher education, in exchange for service after you graduate. In the United States, for example, there is the National Health Service Corps that will pay for your schooling for medical school or for nursing school, and there may be other professions that as long as you agree to practice in an under-serviced area, a physician or a nurse shortage area in the country, and those are designated. There's actual federal statistics that designate which areas are considered a practice shortage area. So those are other things to think about to help finance your education.
Okay, so the next question. I like the example in Cynthia's lecture video about making coffee versus buying coffee as a money management strategy, but sometimes it's a social norm to go buy coffee with your peers. What are your suggestions for fitting in while also being budget conscious? That is a great question.
Can you first explain the buying coffee versus making money, making coffee?
Sure. So, I can't think of the numbers exactly in my head, but I think that generally speaking, somebody can shell out a lot of money on coffee. You know, I mean, it's $4 or $5 every time you're going to Starbucks, for example. So, you know, that could amount to about $200 over the month. And if you're using student loans to cover that, you then obviously have to consider the interest and then the time that you're going to take to repay that. So, I mean, it could become an expense of, for the example that I have clear in my head is for a medical student who is not only going to be 4 years in medical school, but then 4 years in residency. So that $200 per month can end up being probably $15,000 over the life. So, you know, it's just not really worth it. So my recommendation is you buy a coffee pot and you make your own coffee and you take it in a mug. And I think that'll be fine. But it's true. I think that it is the social norm to go and get a coffee. So I think my recommendation would be that make it a treat. I think that maybe on Fridays you go and you have coffee with your friends. Monday through Wednesday, you're going to bring your coffee, and maybe you go to Starbucks and you have your coffee in your hand already. I don't know if they'll appreciate that much, but anyway, I think that just making it a treat, and that plus it's probably going to be extra exciting for you that day on Friday that you get your treat.
Well, also having a social life is super important, so
Yeah.
don't get us wrong.
Yeah.
But there are ways to balance this, right? So you can spend less in one area of your finances and then allow for that $5 or $10 to have your treats over the period of a week.
Right.
You can host a coffee at your own condo or apartment and have it more of a social hour. Or maybe it's not coffee, maybe it's something else. A potluck, you know, things like that. You can meet in an area that's not in a store. So you can meet in a common area, in a park, depending on the weather of where you live. In a student hall or commons, again, depending on where you are. And that way, no one has to buy anything. They can just bring their own mug of whatever they want to drink, and just really to socialize. So there are more inexpensive ways to approach social settings and to encourage socialization that don't necessarily revolve around sitting in a coffee shop. And so just be creative, because you can find some things. In the summer, I'll give you great examples. In Chicago in the summer, there are so many free activities around downtown. And in various communities, and they're all free, and you can pack a lunch or pack a dinner and bring your own beverages, and you can sit out and enjoy a free concert or a dance show. So there's a lot of options around here and around where you live. You just have to be creative about creating those social opportunities.
Great response, I think.
Thank you. So the next question, can you give any advice on applying to scholarships?
I would say applying to scholarships, especially during undergrad, do it as much as you can, because realistically, there's so many opportunities. I mean, if you're left-handed, if you're brown eyes, if the list really goes on, and I think that a lot of opportunities go missed because people just don't take the time to apply. And I know it takes time. I know you have to go out there and you have to, write your CV, you write your, get your letters of recommendation. And so it does take time, I know, but it could really be worth it. I did also have somebody that I worked with when I was at University of Chicago, an undergrad, who came to me and said, I didn't get many scholarships. So what I did was I went out to the community and I asked various business owners for $500 each. Pretty impressive. Yeah, she came back with a lot of money, actually. So on top of what she got from the institution, the money that she brought in, she was pretty set. So she didn't have to borrow much in student loans, which was great for her. So take the time, go out there and do it. It's definitely going to be worth it. I think, if you do send out 100 applications and you get five scholarships back, it was worth it.
Absolutely. It's worth it because it's less loans you have to take out.
Yes.
And it's less stress.
Yes.
And I know it's stress applying, but you find the few people who can write you a letter of recommendation that is more general and just edit the title of the scholarship to which you're applying for. So minor edits, not hard. I do it for a lot of my students and the people who come across my team, and it's important, even if it's for $2,000 or $1,000 or $500. Mm-hmm. It's totally worth it later on, because then that money that you've saved in scholarships for this particular moment in your education, you may be able to think about it and move forward to a next step in your education, and maybe feel a little more comfortable taking a loan if that's what's necessary.
Okay. Let's see. So this
next question. What is personalized medicine? Can anyone please educate me in this regard? Okay. So personalized medicine is also called precision medicine, and it is a hot topic now, especially in the field of cancer, but other areas as well. And really what it's trying to do is take, for example, in cancer, the exact type of tumor, the exact kind of tumor somebody has, including the genomic sequence, and actually reverse tailoring a treatment to attack that particular tumor. So that's it in a nutshell, is trying to really take a particular disease within an individual person and take that individual person's genetic makeup into account, and then trying to tailor the treatment to help improve the health of that individual. I hope that answers your question. Dr. Simon, next question. Dr. Simon, I would like to know that currently, what is your primary career? Medical education, career counselor, advisor, or gynecologist? Well, I would say all of the above, in addition to being a mom and everything else. So my primary career is a academic physician scientist, is probably the most appropriate word. But within that that overarching career title. I have clinical duty. I am a scientist, so I have a lot of research responsibility. I'm a leader. I'm a vice chair of our department. I also lead one of the programs in our cancer center, and I educate and train a wide variety of students from high school all the way through to professional school, and junior faculty looking to move up in their own career. And yes, I do give a lot of counseling and advice along the way, so that's really important to me. So I like to say I have a very broad career and role within that career. Are there any questions? Oh, I see a couple of questions have popped up on the discussion board. The first question is, are there any standards for how much student debt is too much debt? I'll let Cynthia answer this one.
Oh gosh, how much student debt is too much debt? I would say, well, I think it's really important to come up with that number before you've even started a program. You should know how much you would be expected to take out in student loans. That way, again, you're not going to be surprised on the back end. But realistically, if the school is saying that you're eligible to borrow XYZ dollars, again, let's say the $40,000 example, and you're accepting the full $40,000, let's go back to the idea of what career choice you're at. I think that, if you're going to be earning a salary that's going to support what you're actually, what your student loan payments will be, I think you'll be okay. If you're going into a program where you're expected to borrow $100,000, but your salary is going to be $25,000 per year, that makes it a little bit difficult. And so at that point, I would say you have to take a step back and think about your choices. So I think the overall response would be that it's really important to make sure that your income, your salary will be able to support what you've borrowed and that you can repay it comfortably, because you don't want to be in a position where it's difficult to make student loan payments. That's not a good place to be.
No, I think that was a good response. It's a hard question because there is no dollar amount. It's really what is right for your particular financial situation. Some people's acceptable debt would be much higher than others. It really does depend on the current financial situation of you and your family, and if there's any scholarships coming in. Again, apply for lots of scholarships. Right. And if there is some loan forgiveness program afterwards, or some other kind of loan repayment or support programs afterwards, those are important considerations in accruing debt. But really, it's got to be tailored to you as an individual and your needs. All right. The next question is, will this course be taken down after May 21st, 2015? I just discovered this course and would love to be able to complete the assignments. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for this question. Absolutely, we're going to keep the course up. What we are working on is to transfer this course to the on-demand format on the Coursera platform. Some of you may be familiar with that because you may have taken other MOOCs that are on demand as opposed to session-based, like this one was a session-based. So in order to get this course up here first, and at this period of time, we had to go with session-based first, but we are absolutely in line for transferring this to module form for on-demand. So please tell all your friends, because I really want this to be a resource that's usable to the world and to anyone who needs some career advice or steps through paths to help guide them through the process of what they need to start accumulating the resume and the cover letter and the formal emails and the considerations of what are the most common interview questions and those skills. Those are really important skills for anyone wanting to enter any career, not just health. So thank you for the question, and we are leaving it open. So please take your time to go through it, and I'd really appreciate it if you post some feedback for me, because that will just make it better for everyone. Next question, grading. The grading policy needs some simplification, as distribution of marks for various quests seem a little confusing. That's great feedback, and we will work on tailoring that and making it more clear, so that there is a clear grading policy. Again, because I see this course as a resource for many people, not just those who are taking it for a grade, but just using it as if they're going to use it for their own students. We actually, some of you may not know, but this course is actually being viewed and used by teachers and career counselors and organization leaders who are program leaders who actually will take parts of this course and give it to a wide group of students who are interested. So again, to make it as flexible as possible, that's why we created the grading rubric that we did, but we will try to make it more clear. If there's no more questions, we can wrap up. Do you have any final closing remarks, Cynthia, on financial aid and financial literacy?
Well, I'll try to be really quick. Stick to your budget, and I think follow your dreams, and I think everything will be fine.
Agreed. And I'm going to make one last plug, since this is the last week of this session-based format for this MOOC, that the career portfolio is going to help you regardless of what type of career you're going into. The elements of the career portfolio are really important for applying for scholarships, like we talked about earlier, important for applying for volunteer opportunities, interning opportunities, the next step in your education. So the career portfolio is a really important resource that we designed to help guide you through that process. So we really hope that you upload your career portfolios, because we really would like to see how we can make this course better for everyone. So thank you again for participating today, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.